So, um, just a quick share. You know, these con artists, um, we folks, we allow, especially I'm speaking as chocolate folks, we allow these so-called spiritual folks to give us problems that we don't have. Now, you know, there are challenges that are part of life and that are a natural part of growing. And you go to folks, you know, for help. You know, when you're a young person, um, it makes sense to go to your parents or to grandparents. Not all people go to just their parents. You know, they go to uncles and aunties. In an ideal situation, you would have different people in your community that you could go to for help. You know, as you mature, as you go through different phases of life, from a child to a preteen to a teenager, to a young adult that starts to become interested. You know, in you know in relationships and intimate relationships. And it makes sense that you would go and you would ask for information and you would ask for guidance. Um, as it stands now, we have a lot of irresponsible adults. We also have human beings and parents that are flawed. But the point being that you go to people for advice, guidance, mentorship. That is natural, you know. And I don't think we want to make people feel stupid, young people or anyone of any age, make them feel stupid for asking or seeking advice. That could be on how your body works or what's this next phase of life going to be about. If it's marriage or if it's a young person that's never been in a relationship before, it makes sense. It's the most natural thing to ask questions of folks that are older or have more wisdom and life experience. Unfortunately, there are many folks that exploit that. And it's in my simple observation as a woman and as a mother, um, there are many natural things that are being exploited. Our natural desire for community, um, for to have friends or you know people that you do things with, just wanting to desire to be in relationship and relate to people. That's part of what makes life enjoyable. It's a lot of these natural desires that are being exploited because many people don't have healthy relationships, or maybe their parents um, weren't healthy or weren't emotionally or mentally available. And so, or maybe their parents could have been all right. As you get to a certain age, you seek out and you want your own relationships. And where we seek to have healthy relationships, we're trained that to get that through, you know, people that want to get mated, they go to the church or they go to something cultural or religious. And I would have to say, unfortunately, when we go to ministers, gurus, a lot of these people give you problems that you don't have. You know, now we have issues and things in life. I don't want to say issues. I like to be very um, purposeful as much as I can and intentional with the words that I'm using, because we tend to allow folks in society and people with an agenda to give us problems that we don't have. And sometimes you can wind up in a worse off, a more confused state than before you went to the person. And in particular with cult leaders who have an agenda of control, who want more people to their flock, who want more financial backing for you to take care of them and whatever their agenda is, you're going to folks. And actually, simple wisdom, you know, if you go to 100 people for advice, they're going to tell you 100 different things. If you go to 100 gurus, if you're going to ask the Muslim faith, the Christian faith, the Indian faith, you know, just all these different so-called faith, you know, or doctrines. You go into all these different folks or different camps or different doctrines for solutions, just seeking mentorship and guidance. And so, if we were to not just to read these books, but to understand the motivation of the folks that are putting the books together, they have a motivation, which is usually financial and control. And so, when we go to these folks, you wind up having more problems and more confusion than you started with. You may have asked for, you know, you maybe needed a direct uh, piece of advice or guidance on what did you do when you encountered this in your relationship. And this person wants this guru or this spiritual teacher or this con artist, they want more people in their flock. They want physical security, they want more financial money, they want to be compensated for the wisdom that they're giving to you, they're not giving it to you for nothing. So it's a conflict of interest, because we don't stop to think the people that we're asking for advice, what are they getting out of it? Because most people don't do something for nothing unless it's somebody that actually has something to give, unless there is one of those cherished elders that actually is sharing some wisdom, not necessarily telling you what to do, but is sharing some wisdom because they've been through a lot. They're pretty stable where they are in their life, and they just are sharing some gems with you. But the distinction is when you're going to a guru or so-called many spiritual teachers, they really just want your money, and they want followers. They may want more children. They usually have an agenda, so it's a conflict of interest. And so you may have gone to this guru, let's say in this or this spiritual teacher or whatever, this father figure that many folks in the chocolate community and the melanated community are seeking fathers. It's real simple. We could whittle certain things down and make them very, very simple. People are seeking guidance from a father figure. That's the most natural inclination in the world. But it's being exploited, and you wind up being more confused than ever. For example, right? Because especially when we're talking to other folks, and I'm aware that sometimes there are young people that are going on the line or online looking for information because they don't have parents present. If this or parents, some people think they're so grown and they're adult in their 20s because they can pay bills and they can do different things and entertain vices. Greetings. Can entertain vices legally, and they have the money to pay for it, that they're mature, but they don't have wisdom. So for the questions they want answered, it could be about their sexuality, about spending, about fulfillment. They seek it online. And as a community, we just have so much ideas and stuff in our head. It's like we're just totally confused. Even when it comes to advice, we're giving stuff that we read a meme online or something that we heard. When you go to these folks, these gurus, they give you more problems than you came with. You came asking for information on living foods and how did you maintain eating a plant-based diet, and you wind up being sucked into a cult with babies being told to leave your degrees behind, and we have to go now. And I'm thinking of one of the mates in Joseph Robinson's camp. There have been different people that have reached out. Most people would never even notice. Sometimes in the comments that have said they are aware of different people that have been in Joseph Robinson's camp years ago, that were people that were very productive in their lives, just had just a wonderful disposition, really bright, intelligent people, and they got sucked into his cult. Most of you folks would never hear it. It goes under the radar because most people don't pay attention to details, really read. Most people don't look to see patterns, because we're just our reflexes. We just don't pay attention to details and patterns because we get so distracted by the drama. But you come in there asking for a question about a fibroid, and you're diverted to something else in this person's agenda. And you don't have any idea of the person's character. So again, these gurus are telling you the truth. They give you many universal truths, but it's nothing that you couldn't figure out on your own, just by being honorable and responsible. It really makes things very simple. But when we go asking people to solve the answers to life's challenges, usually we're asking to be manipulated. And I think quite simply, we really underestimate the value of some simple things that could keep us really safe. If you're responsible financially, if you're responsible for your spending, if you're responsible with where you put your genitals, if you're responsible with your time, if you're responsible with vetting people and running background checks and really feeling people out and giving yourself time before you engage with people, that could cut off so many problems and save people so much heartache. It could save people so much heartache. If we could just really whittle things down to just being really simple. A lot of times we're going into churches and spiritual houses when we really just wanted some company or some folks to do some stuff with or folks to speak to, and you figure, well, you're going to get the cream of the crop of some healthy individuals because you go into a church or because you go into a mosque. And we allow the idealism of what we want to blind us. The idealism of, I want to engage with some healthy people that are responsible for their health, that are not complaining, or they're really being creative. with they're being creative with making choices in life. They're just very responsible, being safe. Those are some basic things that I want. These are just basic human things, and it all a lot. That's so much what I was focused on, that I didn't see certain things about his character. And then, all fairness to myself, I wouldn't have seen certain things about this person's character if I had not gone and lived there. Most of the time, you're not going to go get to live with the pastor or the imam or the whatever the name of the spiritual house, or the religion. You don't get to live with these people, and we're asking them for their interpretation of a book that somebody else wrote, somebody else translated. We weren't there. How many years ago? We're asking people to solve life's challenges for us, and it puts us in harm's way. You wind up more confused. You can't tell. You weren't there at the time. You don't know what the interpretation is. It's like second, third hand information. You can't totally trust the character of this person. People are only telling you what they want you to know about their history. Not that you need to know everything, but you need to know enough to see if this person is qualified to be giving me guidance. And even if you don't know all the details about somebody's life, we don't have enough confidence, or we haven't been demonstrating enough as a collective, enough confidence to trust our instincts when it comes to people's character. Doesn't mean you can't learn something from a gardening technique, but there's a lot of information that's available, that you could go and get for free, or guess what? You can go pay for information for what it is that you want to know. And sometimes you might be safer if you go and pay for the information that you want. Again, example. I can't tell you the amount of people. I want you to just peep how many of us get scammed, that will come online and say the quickness. It could be thirst in terms of relationships, or thirst in terms of shortcutting the process. How much is a piece of land? How much can I get for acre? I got some stuff in my savings. How much? And when I say this is how you get scammed, is because you shortcut the process. When you shortcut the process, there's so much nuances that you wouldn't see. The predator that knows that you didn't do the homework knows that all the different details of what you didn't see, which leaves you open for scamming. I don't know if that makes sense. But because you didn't go through the process, there's a lot of details that will fly right over your head. You may not know about the acreage. You may not know if the land floods. You may not know about the bugs in the area. You may not know about the hurricanes. You may not know what the problems with the property. You may not know about the fee, because you shortcutted the process. And sometimes it's great to hear how people overcame when they're sharing, when they're overcoming their struggles. But that's their struggle. You're going to have to go through your own stuff in life, and life has challenges. Life, sometimes people do stuff that you don't like. That's a natural part of life. And we've become so, the religion and all of this so-called spirituality has made us like really not confident. Like we just don't have, we're not demonstrating the confidence to make simple decisions. We need so much validation. And the only validation sometimes is going to come is from yourself, and the confidence is going to come from you putting forth the effort and actually doing something. We can read books and self-help all day, but not until you get uncomfortable and you do a workout, or you try a new recipe and maybe it didn't come out the way you wanted, or until you go out and put yourself out there if you want a healthy relationship. Not until you put yourself out there are you going to get the confidence. The confidence will come from doing. But we are asking so much for validation. It puts us in harm's way. We're asking people to make us feel comfortable about taking risks. Although I had that experience did not turn out the way that I idealized it, or that it did not match up with the pictures that were painted, and there was so much information that was left out. The butt-kicking lesson has given me more confident. I feel very confident because it was confidence in myself that allowed me to get up and walk out. Not somebody telling me, well, you're not equipped to make decisions. I'm not equipped to make a decision about my food. I'm not equipped to make a decision, and if I want to be mated, it just, you don't have any confidence or common sense. So I'm saying this all to say a lot of the spirituality and the consciousness. We're so, my grandpa used to say, so smart, you're stupid. We're getting so much information overload about chakras and feelings. And don't get me wrong, there's some basic universal truths that can be applied. But what would happen if you never read another book? You know, we don't have the confidence that this doesn't feel right, and I know this person has all the right words coming out of their mouth, but something in their character and demeanor is not rubbing right with me, it's not resonating, so I'm not going to go this way. This person, their resume looks fantastic, but something in their character and the way they is not rubbing me the right way. How I watch them treat people or animals is not rubbing me the right way, so I'm not going to go this way. Thank you, but no thank you. I'm going to keep going on this way. And there's certain things I'm going to figure out on my own. So a lot of times when people are interjecting, these so-called leaders are interjecting, a lot of times their own experience. Their experience may not be your experience. We just get educated and spiritualized out of any kind of confidence. We can't make any decision without consulting a book. There's some folks that say you can't make a decision without the Bible. That doesn't make any common sense. And it's like our common sense and our confidence is so depleted. You know, we're so confused with these concepts of right and wrong and good and evil. We can't make basic decisions, or we haven't demonstrated the ability to make basic decisions in a timely manner when we need to make them. And it can result in very poor life choices. And choices, now, as my godfather used to tell me, when you're in the adult arena and you make decisions, there's no antidote for what you just did. So as a responsible adult, now it's not a child, somebody's picking up the tab. As a responsible adult, if you make a choice and you didn't vet and qualify and mate first, then you're going to be left with perhaps a child, a disease, or now you're bonded to somebody for the rest of your life. You know what I'm saying? And so we just need basic common sense. But if you go to somebody for advice on how to choose a mate and you haven't qualified the person and their character that you're asking advice for, and if you don't stop to consider what their agenda is, they're going to give you advice, but they're going to steer you towards what their agenda is. And we also many of us have the tendency to go from one camp to another camp to another camp to another spiritual house. Now I don't use the label, the same behavior, but now we're just going to call it spirituality, or we're going to call it consciousness. But a lot of it is us trying to shortcut the process of, sometimes you're going to make maybe decisions in ignorance, but at least we could at least set a standard of not putting ourselves in harm's way. And the simplicity is not to put ourselves in harm's way financially, not to put our body temples in harm's way with people that we don't know about on the internet or in person. Some of this is so simple. And we're kind of like losing our common sense and going to everybody for advice. There are some things that you can figure out on your own, particularly, again, if you have a basic, and I say this is for young people, but this can apply to anyone of any age. If we make a practice of just having some basic decision-making habits, being responsible with our spending, being responsible with our time, being responsible with our genitals, at a certain age, understanding when you're engaging with people sexually, it take you totally off your focus. Understanding that you don't know people's full history, and there's mental and emotional, you'll be affected mentally, emotionally when you bond with people. These are some things that are basic, and it's understandable. Many people don't have parents around to have these conversations or elders with, so people will turn to the internet, and we underestimate it. I'm nobody's leader or anybody's follower. I'm a woman, and I'm a mother. I'm a simple person, and we just underestimate the leverage and the benefits of simple good habits, and self-discipline could go a long way. You know, several people have said, "Oh, are you guys rich? Is that how you get money?" No, there's a lot of stuff that we didn't consume. We underestimate eating fruits and vegetables. We underestimate not spending, a whole lot of money on junk. You know what I'm saying? So you have the opportunity to travel, and some of us so scared. Many people think that you can't travel unless you go into a cult and you try to do everything cheap and on the fly. And when you get there and you stay with these people, you don't know these people. I feel I feel for many people that are deciding to go over to these cults looking for a utopia. And these are just flawed human beings with issues, and you're not going to see, and people are not going to let you see until, and you're most likely not going to see until it's too late. And many people will be in denial because they invested so much. And again, you just don't want to believe that you made a poor decision or a decision in ignorance because you just didn't know. And once you know better, now you can make a decision to do better. But as a collective, we've gotten feedback and information in terms of economics and health, and we're choosing sometimes to, you know, um, I don't know if I want to use the word lazy, but sometimes we're just choosing not to act on the wisdom that we've been given, and we're getting lackluster results that we don't want. And then we turn around and keep going to spiritual houses for them to give us more direction when all we had to do was stop your spending, curb your vices and your appetites, save your money, do your research. If you keep going to 100 different people, they're going to give you 100 different pieces of advice, and you'll wind up so um, lacking confidence. There's one of the things that I can definitely say coming out of a cult. Your confidence is eroded. You are made to feel, and you're encouraged to feel that you cannot make a decision without the group. You must do as the group does. Anything outside of the group, you're encouraged to constantly come into the group. For example, I've worked in fitness for a couple of decades, and I'm watching this. There's so many just simple little examples. But this old man Joseph Robinson, and the women in sisterhood, was all together. Which wasn't even like 15 minutes of exercise, if we're lucky, of dancing. Meanwhile, folks are coming in there. This is a good example with professionals with dance backgrounds, fitness backgrounds, but you get dumbed down inside of the cult because you don't know anything and you don't question anything unless it's with the group. And this is a very, very good distinction. You start to throw away all your life experience. And even though you went to Western school, Western education, yes, there's some things that we learned that were valuable. And so the Western system, and it's the Western system that, again, didn't make up education. But anyway, they were telling us to do, or the Queen Mother was telling us to do a exercise that I know is contraindicated. Basically, it's an old school exercise that's unsafe. There are many like pull downs behind the neck, or certain sit-ups in a certain kind of way that could really injure your lower back and your lumbar spine. So I don't play when it comes to my body. So I had a question. Also, this is just a teachable moment. They weren't doing any warm-up. So that's important so you don't rip or tear any ligaments or anything. So the high priest, Joseph Robinson, gets to come in where the sisters are, the women are, because he's the high priest. And, so, I was like, excuse me, can we do a warm-up? Because, my sister got, pull something because we're not doing a warm-up. Now, mind you, we come from a background of fitness. Don't know everything. I know I don't know everything, but I come from a background of fitness where people pay me to be pain-free. So we were told, well, I don't know. I said, can we please do a warm-up? So everybody looks around and say, well, I don't know. I think that's what they do out there. I think they do warm-ups. And so then the Joseph Robinson, so-called high priest, stands up in his 70s and shows us some old school exercises maybe he did when he was in the military, a basketball warm-up that look so broken down. But the amount of control, this is to say the amount of control where people won't exercise their common sense. And I watch everybody constantly look to say, well, what is the high priest, thing? What should I say? This is the lobotomizing when you're asking people, when you keep, it's like muscle tone in reverse. You lose your muscle of critical thinking when you keep looking to people to say, how should I eat? How should I dress? How should I make this decision? It's like you lose your ability, like the muscle of decision making atrophies. You lose your ability, you lose your confidence in yourself to make any kind of decisions, and that is one of the goals in the cult, to make you feel that you can't make any kind of decision without the cult leader and the cult leader's chain of command. So you wind up coming out with much more insecurities than when you went in with. You think you're going for a solution, but you wind up getting much more insecurities. And so just another thing I just wanted to share, just the comments that I see, not only in Joseph Robinson's cult, but the trend in many of the black cults. I can't speak on other cults. You know, you can, again, I welcome, I invite people to get educated, and there's a whole playlist again of cults, black and white, so you can see the patterns. It is quite a jaw-dropping education. But there's a tendency to put forth this idea that women are not desirable, or that all of Africa, which is a continent, not a country, um, that you are not desirable or feminine if you are strong physically, if you fight to defend yourself, uh, you know, if you read anything other than the books that are put out by the cult. And it's really, to be quite simple, it's a crock of crap. Again, to illustrate the point, you wind up coming out more confused with more insecurities than you went in with. There are women in there that are absolutely brilliant. Brilliant. There's a lawyer in there. I know there's a powerful woman. Brilliant. But she's so broken down. The women, you become so broken down because of your dependence. Now, because you want to mate, or you're made to feel like, you know, one woman, she does, you know, he makes her feel like, as I watch, she doesn't know anything, because when he got her pregnant, her and somebody else at the same time, Joseph Robinson, that she doesn't know anything about raising a baby, and that he births all the babies even though he's blind. You know, he births all the babies and moves their spiritual energies and, you know, stuff around and born into his hand. I'm gonna be real with you. You don't teach a cat how to clean itself. And actually, you can see now the trend more with lotus births. If we didn't have anybody around, it's built into your body to birth a baby. You know what I'm saying? But the amount of control, you know, for this woman to feel like she's less than. And I watched him break this one particular woman down. And you're made to feel the more education you have from Western society, the more degrees you have, the worse your programming is. It's like the woman has been hazed and broken down, and if you were to look at the older books, her face would always look down, broken, and depressed. So I'm watching this, and I'm watching the patterns that she receives some of the most hazing, because she, maybe at some point she was very fiery and wouldn't submit to her common sense. Several things that she would say is common sense. How come we don't plan anything? And this is the manipulation, I'm saying, subtleties that you would never see inside of a cult. As he told me, she said once, how come we don't plan for anything? You know, there's somebody that's good with business, and it's a lawyer. And this is what his response was, Joseph Robinson, the high priest. Was it a plan when I met you? There was no plan when I met you. It's like I watch him break this woman down, you know, to put it into a context. And when you're in it, you start second guessing, well, maybe he has a point. Does he have a point? This is what's happening in the conscious, cultural, new age community. You are so rhetoricized, so much rhetoric out of your common sense and your common intuitive nature, your internal wisdom. There's an internal compass of wisdom within all of us that can show you what you see in terms of mistreatment is what you see. But all the justifications and the rationalizations to make you think you're not seeing what it is that you're actually seeing is crazy. So I've watched women that are broken down, and as he got comfortable and cocky, and I was able to hear, not that I was looking to see this stuff, you know, I'm looking to see who I'm living with, but when he got comfortable and cocky, he just showed certain things. And I used to wonder, how come the women around, like, they remind me of the Stepford wives. Were they beautiful physically? Yes. Part of them are beautiful because they're healthy. Anybody that's healthy is at their most beautiful when you're healthy. So many women may be impressed, because who wants to be overweight and unhealthy, you know? But again, these are things to lure women, because many of us may not have certain information, or haven't taken on the responsibility or the discomfort of changing habits that leave us overweight and unhealthy. We're looking for somebody to fix us. You wind up with more insecurities. So while these women are not overweight, you're not going to be overweight on living foods, and also if your food is rationed. You can't get big eating living foods if you eat lots of nuts and you sit around and you eat too much starches all day, you know, if you just eat too much food. But when your food is rationed and it's healthy, and you're moving and you have a lot of activity in the garden, you're not going to be overweight. So there's a reason why the women are slim. That's a positive. So, but if you put the distinction, if you put the responsibility for you being healthy, or for, I can't stop smoking cigarettes by myself, or I can't get healthy by myself, so I must need this man as a mate. I need the high priest to guide me in terms of eating fruits and vegetables. So you see, this is how you wind up with more insecurities. Because when I watch these grown, adult, healthy, brilliant women, so called submit, and there's nothing wrong, we're complementary, men and women. You know, it's we complement each other. It's not for one to walk in back of the other. We walk alongside and complement each other. But I don't need somebody. Yes, I don't have a need for somebody to control me, and I don't need to control anybody else. And I can make the distinction between guiding a child. Um, and I just don't need the control. I don't need the control of God. Oh, make it your will, not my will. I mean, we are almost like lobotomized out of our common sense. So, some simple wisdom, and these are things again that help me to get up and leave. Is I think of my one of my aunties, my auntie Jill, and I never forget when I was a little girl that I got chased upstairs, a new neighborhood, and I got chased upstairs by this woman. She became this girl. She became a hip hop artist later in the old school, back in the hood. And as I came upstairs and I was rushing past, somebody was this girl chased me upstairs. So my bless her wherever she is right now. My auntie Joe's behind back downstairs. Don't you ever let anybody chase you upstairs ever again. Come on, let's go downstairs. So auntie, and she came downstairs. She said, "Which one of y'all want to fight my niece?" Nobody stepped up. There was no one gonna jump me. If anything, I was just really just scared. But yeah, that's right. Let's go. Come on. So nobody bothered me. The wisdom of that life experience for my auntie, who's not necessarily intellectual, is that you don't let anybody bully you. And a big part of me getting up and leaving, I am in Central America. And also, Bob, thank you for inquiring. I do ask when people ask the internet, they're live on the internet. When people are brainwashed, it is a very unsafe. So it's very important for us to, when we're communicating with some sisters here traveling abroad, and as much as we want to romanticize and think they will always say, and it's not that I'm boy, but you cannot take these people for granted. Encourage people not to put their phone numbers and all of that stuff online. It is very dangerous. If there's a cult here, for me to say, here's my location, where I am. So it's not that I'm looking. This is what I mean when I say healthy boundaries. You can send a message in a DM. Also understand, people often communicating, they have with the avatar, no picture on their name, no videos on their site. There's no way of vetting, which I keep encouraging people to do, who you are speaking to. So again, lesson for folks that are out there, young people, anyone, just because somebody says Baba, and this is no offense, I'm not trying to be offensive, because somebody says brother, sister, Baba, these are actually key words that I can tell you. This is not just Joseph Robinson, that people use to lure you into cults, and it gets people open, because people want to belong to something. So I encourage people to be very and very protective. Create some healthy boundaries when you're dealing with folks online. Because if I'm telling you what my location is, how is that going to help me? If nobody's coming and is concerned about my safety, or nobody's going to pick up and make a phone call, I'm sharing information and insight for people's value, but nobody's looking out for us. And it's important for us to have uncomfortable but respectful conversations. This is a part of developing healthy boundaries. Identify yourself, have a picture, so I know who I'm speaking to, because any cult person could make a fake avatar. They watch our channel, So the same way somebody's going to ask me for information, how much it costs for a piece of land, you know what I'm saying? This is part of what gets us got, particularly as black folks coming from the States. This is what gets us got. We have to learn, even with each other, to develop healthy boundaries, especially women and children, for their safety. And this is not exclusive of brothers, because the cult leaders, they have one way of dealing with men and one way of dealing with women. With your age, they're extremely savvy. So it is about safety. I know we don't want to talk about that, and women don't want to think that I'll have to actually do something to protect myself. But it's always been and has come to that. It is glaringly obvious, because nobody's taking a stance to really deal with a standard of protection. That's our responsibility. That's my responsibility, to protect myself. So be careful putting your all your personal information, because these are people, I don't know the folks that are here on the internet. It's just a number or a like or avatar, a little picture. You don't know who's who. Or this could be Joseph Robinson's folks, or on this page. It is a cult. This is not make believe. This is very, very real. And so until, and I can't even say until, and it is necessary for all of us, if we care, to set a standard of safety at a baseline, right? Whether you are quote unquote sleeping with me or not, whether I have an allegiance to your camp or not, the priority is the safety of women and children, and also safety so that you are not financially scammed. And that's, I know, a boundary that I'm establishing. A healthy boundary that I'm establishing. So you come identify yourself, because I don't know who, because it's some folks. This one's called Baba, Nana, all he's scamming folks for money. So Baba and Nana it's not helping me. If no one can make a phone call to make sure that we are safe, it's not really helping me. And I'm not here. I'm not a savior or anything. We took a risk with sharing this information. But the point of this particular sharing today, but I do thank you. It's appreciated when you ask, or if many people don't even ask or inquire how we're doing. But in terms of something tangible, that our safety is a priority. All of our safety is a priority. So somebody calling the embassy, doing background checks, that's what's tangible. That's what I can work with primarily, is my safety. We don't ask for donations. We don't ask for none of that, because we're responsible working, adults. That's how we got here. Again, that's why a lot of times the cult leaders would take mature women and use them as cash cows. They still try to get an anchor babies out of you, but they want you to be so broken down that you'll just give all your money because you're desperate for a mate. So that may sound a way, but I'm breaking it down to the simplest common denominator. And just based on what I've seen, either you'll be very, very young and unaware, or you're a woman that's gone through a life crisis, or you're a male that's never had a father, or on the outs with your father and don't want to go to the military, or don't like the job situation. So, they look like, it looks like it's a good situation. So these are some of the basic ways, without being too wordy, that they lure folks in. And it's very, very, it's actually simple, and it works. That's why people keep manipulating the Bible and religious books, because as much as we don't like it, it works. It worked. The whole program of just because somebody's an elder, they wouldn't possibly scam you. That's how people float underneath the radar, because we won't question these things that we have been told. Trust has to be earned, and it has to be developed. That's the standard that I'm looking to engage over here, and that's what I'm putting forth to males and females. Because somebody got a pretty face or locks and talk about their Baba and Hotep and all that, it has to be matched with consistent actions over time. So the last thing I just wanted to share is, I didn't see it when we were in the States. I saw for the second time here on a video, Wakanda, or Black Panther. And so I don't, going to the movies is not a priority. And, over here, we just heard all the controversy in both camps. I can listen constructively to both sides, or various different sides of Black Panther. And to me, I'm excited. I learned so much, and I give thanks to be a lover of learning and a lifelong learner. I got so much out of that movie. I thought it was fantastic. The imagery, the fact that it was black folks, and the women was so powerful and feminine. And as I looked at sister, I used to rock, a short, so peach fuzz and a baldy for many, many years. And I just had to think, those women were very feminine to me. They were feminine and they were strong. And I was watching them as they were defending, the king. And a couple things that stood out. Number one, they were fighting physically and defending the king. And it was extremely beautiful. They were strong and they had a clarity and they were clear. And amongst all these cults and religion, these pictures of the no offense to any Christians out there, the Virgin, White Mary, or even if you take and paint her black,